clinical medicine, we really need to be aware that when clinician examines patient in his clinic, he tend to take a history, he will examine that particular patient, he or she will recommend certain tests, and then that will complete the process of so-called patient diagnosis. But when we are working into the public health or community health programs, what we really need to have is a kind of a different approach. We have to go and talk with the community. Okay, we have to read the records, the reports which are available regarding that particular community. If there is a gap in those reports or records, we have to approach community and actively do a kind of a survey. We have to make active inquiries, and then that will help us to have a kind of a proper community diagnosis. Okay, so this is the kind of a distinction between clinical medicine and the community health programs. The objective of clinical medicine we know is cure to cure patients of diseases. But at the same time, when it comes to public health programs, we as epidemiologists are interested in improving health status of community, and obviously we require information. Okay, in clinical medicine, we know that information is all about clinical history, physical examination. But when we go into the community, we are interested into the population data. What are the health problems that particular community members are suffering from? What are the disease patterns which are there in that particular community? And what are the issues regarding availability of health services? What kind of laboratory investigations are being available in that particular community? So on and so forth. As we move on, this particular information requirement really drive our motivation to study epidemiology. Another important thing is the importance of denominator. Remember that essence of epidemiology is to refer individuals with the disease or condition to the population from which they come. So that is what is the importance of denominators. Okay, so all findings in epidemiology must relate to a defined population. Or to put it another way, individuals with the disease must be referred to the population from which they come. As we try to understand epidemiological measures of disease frequency, three things are very important. First and foremost is cases. Okay, we really need to define and really need to operationalize the definition of cases. Okay, because these operational definitions, they will differ from clinical case definitions, and we have to get accurate data, and for that we may need both active as well as passive methods. What we mean by active methods is, suppose we are going for antibody tests. Suppose, and in passive methods, we are really have to wait for cases to arrive at health services. So definition of cases is important. So that particular definition of cases and the number of cases usually forms the numerator for measures of disease frequency. So first important thing is cases. Second is we really need to know about population at risk. The population from which, if a case originates, that would be considered as a case in the calculation and included in the numerator. And you can define numerator geographically or might be um, depending on socio-demographic characteristics. Generally, the population at risk usually appears in the denominator. And when calculating measures of disease frequency, we really need to be aware about cases as well as population at risk. But the third important thing in measures of disease frequency is obviously time period. Okay, because for some measures of disease frequency that relate to a particular point in time, and other measures relate to what happens over a particular time period. So it is important to specify the time period and or include it in the calculation for measures of disease frequency. So be aware about these epidemiological measures of disease frequency and the importance of three things: cases, population at risk, and time period. Okay, take an example. You are measuring disease frequency. So you have to consider, let's consider a population of n people. And we have to follow them up for time t, for example t years. Then until a point in time we will call capital T. You have to follow them up. And over time, in this kind of a journey of follow up, you will find that some people are getting ill, and they are getting ill at each step, and they are denoted as by letter D, shown in blue color. So that at time T, a total of D people have the disease, meaning capital N minus D people are still well at time T. So capital N is equal to population at risk at time 0, and small d is number who are cases at time t. And this is nothing but the prevalence. Remember that prevalence is measured at one point in time, and this is nothing but proportion of persons in a population who are cases of disease at a point in time. There are two types of prevalence: point prevalence and period prevalence. In point prevalence, that always equals to number of cases in a defined population at one point in time over number of persons in the defined population at the same point in time. Okay, on the diagram, if we try to see the point prevalence, okay, it will be denoted as prevalence at time capital T, and that equals D over capital N. Okay, let's move on. So, what are the kind of a key points for us to remember regarding prevalence? Prevalence can vary from 0 to 1. It could be either 0% or 100%. Remember that prevalence is a proportion, it is not a rate. That is why it has no dimensions or units. Prevalence must state what point in time it is being measured at. We already taken an example of point prevalence, because numerator are those who were cases at any point during a defined time. Prevalence also depends both on rate of new cases but also on duration of disease. We are going to look at this particular point at later point of the session as well. Okay, then what is incidence? It is measure of the occurrence of new cases over time. There are three ways of expressing incidence. Okay, it is called as risk, odds, and rates. Risk, or also regarded as cumulative incidence, is nothing but probability of individuals becoming cases during a specified time. Going by a formula, cumulative incidence or risk equals number of new cases of disease in a given time period over number of disease-free persons at the beginning of that time period. Going by our diagram, risk over time small t equals D over capital N. Odds. An alternative way of expressing disease incidence is always regarded as odds. Okay, so odds equals number of new cases of disease in a given time period over number of persons who did not become a case during that time period. In the diagram, odds of the disease over time t equals D over capital N minus D. Odds can be used to describe either incident or prevalent cases. So going by this particular diagram, odds of disease over time equals D over capital N minus D. What are rates then? Rates are nothing but cumulative measures, okay? And we have to assume that entire population has been followed over a specified time in order to arrive at certain rates. But often in practice, this does not happen. For example, some individuals, they will get the disease, some will drop out, some are recruited late, and some will die. So rates are, although more accurate measure of disease occurrence over time, we really need to get introduce ourselves with the idea of person time at risk. And what is that person time at risk? So let's take this example of a hypothetical study, okay, which is elaborating on person years at risk. So these are the kind of records of last 5 years in which 9 individuals have been followed up, okay, with regard to know what are their years at risk. So this particular person, okay, he has 5 years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years at risk. This particular person who started in the second year has 3 years of risk because at the end of third year he got disease. So he is contributing to just 3 years at risk. This particular person, okay, added 5 years, but with regard to this person, okay, at the end of fourth year we lost him to follow up. So obviously he added just 4 years of risk. This particular person also kind of was present for all 5 years at risk. Okay, the in case of this person, okay, he started in the third year, and at the towards the end of third year he got diagnosed with a disease. So he just adding 1 year of risk. Okay, starting from first year, in the third year, in the middle of third year, basically this particular person, okay, got diagnosed with a disease, so he is adding 2.5 years at risk. Okay, this particular person started in the mid of 2019, so he is adding 1.5 years at risk. Okay, and this particular person is adding 5 years at risk. If we take the sum total of all these kind of years at risk, then that becomes 32. That is how people actually draw total person years at risk as a measure of disease. Okay, now let's move on. Okay, going back again to our diagram, here capital Y reflects the population time at risk. Okay, and this is where we really need to be aware about, and we can go back to our example again. Okay, if we try to have this particular formula of calculating incidence rate, then that equals number of persons who have become cases in a given time period over total person time at risk during that period. In the diagram, it becomes rate over time t equals d over y person time at risk. So this is our example. We have years at risk at 32 and number of persons with a disease as 3. So we can calculate now the rate, number of cases, that equals 3 over person time at risk, that equals 32. So that gives us the total person time as 0.094 per person year, or 9.4 per 100 person years. So that is how one can calculate person time at risk. Let's try to understand what is the difference between incidence as well as prevalence. Okay, when it comes to numerator, incidence is nothing but number of new cases of disease during a specified period of time, whereas prevalence is number of existing cases of disease at a given point of time. In both cases, denominator remains population at risk. Focus in incidence is whether the event is a new case or time of onset of the disease. Whereas in prevalence, focus is on presence or absence of a disease. And remember that in prevalence, time period is arbitrary, rather it is been regarded as a snapshot in time. Incidence, uses of that, it expresses the risk of becoming ill, and incidence also become the main measure of acute diseases or conditions, but it can be also used for chronic diseases. Incidence is more useful for studies of causation. When it comes to prevalence, it is nothing but it estimates the probability of the population being ill at the period of time being studied, and prevalence is useful in the study of the burden of chronic diseases and implications for health services. As we are trying to understand the relationship between incidence and prevalence is also important, in addition to its difference. If incidence cases are not resolved and if they are continued over time, then they become prevalent cases. So in this sense, prevalence equals incidence into duration of the illness. This is a very good kind of a visual, okay, which depicts what is incidence. Incidence is nothing but kind of a new cases shown by blue color here, and prevalence is existing cases. And we know that cases are always removed from the population either by recovering or dying. Okay, Dr. Doke in his last session actually elaborated very beautifully with regard to what is incidence and what is prevalence, uh, by using this particular visual. What we really need to understand here is the relationship, okay, between the incidence and prevalence. A chronic or incurable disease such as diabetes that can have a low incidence but high prevalence because this particular disease is not fatal, and but at the same time it is cannot be completely cured either. So its prevalence is the sum of new as well as existing cases from past years. Okay, a short duration or curable disease such as common cold, for example, can have a high incidence but low prevalence because many people get a cold each year, but it lasts for a very short time. Point and period prevalence. There are two types of prevalences, point as well as period prevalence. And examples of point and period prevalence and cumulative incidence in interview studies of asthma. Okay, so if whenever you ask this particular question, like, do you currently have asthma, you are probing about point prevalence. Okay, whenever you are asking this particular question such as, have you had asthma during the last n years, n could be 1 to 5 years, then that becomes a period prevalence. And when you are asking a question like, have you ever had asthma, what you are probing is nothing but cumulative or lifetime incidence. What are the factors influencing prevalence? Okay, prevalence is always increased by longer duration of the disease, prolongation of life of patients without cure, increase in new cases, in migration of cases, out migration of healthy people, in migration of susceptible people, or sometimes prevalence is increased by improved diagnostic facilities such as better reporting systems as well. Prevalence is always decreased by shorter duration of the disease, high case fatality rate from disease, decrease in new cases, in migration of healthy people, out migration of cases, as well as prevalence is decreased by improved cure rates of cases. So, going back to our equation, prevalence equals incidence into duration of disease. Remember that higher incidence results in higher prevalence and longer duration results also in higher prevalence. Let's take an example of chest X-ray screening in two communities or two groups, high SES and low socioeconomic status. So if we carry out this particular chest X-ray screening in the population of suppose 1,000 from both the groups, then the result what we get is number of people with positive X-rays. In high SES it is 100 and in low SES it is 60. So point prevalence per 1,000 in high SES group then becomes 100 and in low SES it becomes 60. Okay. If we know about this and we are aware about the equation between prevalence, incidence, and duration of disease, then definitely if we know about the prevalence, any two of the values we know, that is what is the point prevalence, or then on average duration, then we can calculate incidence. If we know point prevalence and incidence, we can calculate average duration. So that is what is the significance of this particular equation. Always we have to remember that there are problems with incidence as well as prevalence measurements. Okay, there are problems with numerators and they are mostly dealing with definition, data collection methods as well as sources. And there are problems with denominators. They are also arising because of not having a kind of a clear definition. And the exact thing is appropriateness of certain denominators. Okay, let's try to take an example of this appropriateness. If you want to do a study on carcinoma of the cervix, then what should be your denominator? Whether you can consider or take the entire population. Okay, since it is a disease of woman, there is no point in taking men into this. Then if we are going to consider only women, then also we are aware from our studies and evidence that, okay, not all women are equally susceptible to this carcinoma of the cervix. So which age group is susceptible? Then that particular age group is 25 to 69 years. So then that particular age group becomes population at risk or kind of a good denominator for such study on carcinoma of the cervix. Okay, let's try to move on and try to study certain mortality rates. Okay, annual mortality rate from all causes per thousand population, if we try to know, then that equals total number of deaths from all causes in 1 year over number of persons in the population at mid-year into 1000. So what is this principle of considering population at mid-year? Okay, for vital statistics purpose, the midpoint or population is used with the assumption that addition and subtraction of population occur uniformly throughout the year. If the actual person years of follow-up were calculated for all individuals in a year, the value will be equivalent to the number of population at mid-year times 1. So that is followed for one full year. So the denominator thus becomes person year, and mortality rate can be considered as a rate and not a proportion. Okay, so let's move on. Annual mortality rate from all causes. If we try to take a value, there are 20 deaths from all causes in 1 year. Over 12,000 persons in the population are there at mid-year. Then that becomes 1.7 per 1,000 as annual mortality rate from all causes. A specific mortality rate. Annual mortality rate from all causes for children under age 10 per 1000 population, if we had to calculate, then that equals total number of deaths from all causes in 1 year in children under age 10 over number of children in the population under age 10 at mid-year into 1000. So this is where we are also considering mid-year population. This is a specific mortality rate. Can we calculate then cause specific mortality rate? Yes. So this is the annual mortality rate from lung cancer. These are total number of deaths from lung cancer in 1 year over number of persons in the population at mid-year into 1000. Can we calculate age as well as cause specific mortality rate? Yes, we can calculate that. Formula or equation is annual mortality rate from leukemia for children under age 10 per 1000 population, and that equals total number of deaths from leukemia in 1 year in children under age 10 over number of children in the population under age 10 at mid-year into 1000. Case fatality rate. It is always number of individuals dying during a specified period of time after disease onset or diagnosis over number of individuals with the specified disease into 100. What is proportionate mortality? Can we calculate that? Yes. Proportionate mortality, suppose we are taking example from cardiovascular diseases which happened in US in 2000. So that becomes, the equation is number of deaths from cardiovascular diseases in the US in 2000 over total deaths in the US in the year 2000. If we try to take example of deaths from heart disease in two communities, consider community A as well as community B. If mortality rate from all causes is 30 per 1000 in community A and 15 per 1000 in community B, then, and we are aware that proportional mortality from heart disease is 10% in community A and 20% in community B, then what will be the mortality rate from heart disease? Okay, then that mortality rate becomes 3 per 1000 in both the cases. So this is how mortality rate and proportionate mortality rate are related with each other, and one can calculate that. Let's try to take another example. Okay, this is the mortality rate from all causes. We know it is 20 per 1000 and 10 per 1000. And proportionate mortality from heart disease is 30% each in both the communities. Then what is the mortality rate from heart disease? This time it will be 6 per 1000 in community A and 3 per 1000 in community B. Okay, let's try to move on now and try to understand the summary measures. Okay, summary measures are nothing but ratio, proportion, and rates. Okay, and these are the indices used to summarize most of the time our results. A ratio can be written as one number divided by another. It is regarded as a fraction of the form A over B. Both A and B refer to the frequency of some event or occurrence. Okay. When it comes to proportion, proportion is also a ratio in which the numerator is a subset of the denominator and can be written as A over A plus B, and that is regarded as a relative frequency. When it comes to rate, rate is a ratio of the form A star over A plus B. What is A star? A star is the frequency of events during a certain time period. A plus B is the number at risk of the event during that time period. A rate may or may not be a proportion. We are going to revisit this point again in further examples. Okay, so ratio is A over B. So remember that ratio R is rescaled by multiplying by a constant K, and K could be 10, 100,000, 10,000 or 100,000. Ratio is always greater than 0. Ratio may or may not have any units. Okay, this is an example of ratio. Observed number of AIDS cases in country A during the month of June over expected number of AIDS cases in country A during the month of June. That gives, if we try to put a numbers to that, 40 cases over 20 cases, so that ratio becomes 2. And remember that ratio doesn't have any unit. Another classical example of ratio is maternal mortality ratio. In Indian situations, we tend to see the kind of a decline in maternal mortality ratio over the years. In 2015, for example, maternal mortality ratio of India was 140. It was expected to reach around 109, but where we were in 2015 was 140. So maternal mortality ratio of India in 2015 was 140. Okay, let's try to now look into standardized mortality ratio. It is the ratio of the number of events observed in the study population to the number that would be expected if the study population were exposed to the same specific rates as the standard population. So standardized mortality ratio always equals observed over expected kind of a deaths in the population. Remember that since it is a ratio, it does not have any units. What is the proportion? Suppose n is the number of individuals in a population and x is the number of individuals in the same population who possess characteristic C. Then proportion in the population with characteristic C is equal to x over n. So that is how one calculates proportion. Remember that proportion also takes values between 0 and 1, where p is always a fraction. P has no units, and p or proportion may be multiplied by constant k, which could be 100, 1000 or 100,000. Examples of proportion. Very good example always is proportionate mortality. Suppose this is a statement. In 1995, 53% of all deaths in Africa were in children under age 5. Then what is the proportionate mortality? Proportionate mortality then becomes 0.53. Or 53%, or 53 per 100, or 530 per 1000. So this is where proportion, okay, adds value to our measurements. This is the diagram, okay, or the graph of proportion of 1-year children who got vaccinated against measles in India. Okay, so in the year 2015, 89.06 children under 1 year, they got vaccinated against measles. Okay, so that is how proportion helps us in understanding various measures in epidemiology. Okay, to summarize, remember that a proportion is always a ratio, a rate is always a ratio, and last but very important thing, a rate may or may not be a proportion. Okay, when it comes to rate are always regarded as the calendar time period, and the calendar time period is the same in both the numerator and denominator of a rate. A rate expresses the relative frequency of an event per unit time, that is risk. Okay, take this example, infant mortality rate. That is nothing but a number of infant deaths per 1,000 live births during a calendar year. Remember, IMR here is a ratio, but IMR is not a proportion because the numerator is not necessarily part of the denominator. Because some infants may have been born during the previous calendar year. Okay, straightforward indicator is fertility rate. Number of live births per thousand women in the age group of 15 to 44 years during a calendar year is regarded as fertility rate. The fertility rate is both a ratio as well as proportion. Infant mortality rate. Take example of India. Okay, in the year 2015, infant mortality rate of India was 40. It was expected to be 27, but we finally boiled down to 40. 40 is infant mortality rate of India. So, to sum up, measuring the frequency of disease in epidemiological studies requires us to define first cases, second population at risk, and third the time period. Okay, remember about key measures in epidemiology. These are point and period prevalence, cumulative incidence or risk, incidence rate or percent time. We have to be aware about relationship between prevalence as well as incidence, and that relation or equation is prevalence equals incidence into duration of disease. Okay, when it comes to certain mortality rates, remember they are important measures in epidemiology, and you really need to know the formulas or equations of different mortality rates, and those really need to be interpreted vis-a-vis to the context in which, whether it's a specific mortality rate, cause specific mortality rate, or case fatality rate. So we really need to be aware about the nitty-gritties of that. Okay. Okay, so these are the recommended readings or books for all of you to refer to for further understanding. And thank you. We are looking forward to you all taking concrete steps in understanding and exploring epidemiology further. Okay, I'm open for questions.
Okay, thank you. Uh, there are a couple of questions over here, and even I have a few questions.
Mhm.
I was wondering if you would like to elaborate little more on standardization of rate and ratios and why is it used?
Yes. Okay. Um, Standardization of rates and ratio is important because whenever we are actually calculating rates, okay, we have to take into consideration certain contexts which are important. Suppose, for example, you are considering community A and community B. Okay, so that particular community will have a kind of a different history of evolution. Okay, different kind of a context in which things are happening in those particular communities. So that is the reason we have to go by a kind of a standard population. What are our observations in normal circumstances? Because suppose in community B there are some instances like civil unrest is there, some work like condition is there, then that particular community will not follow the so called normal kind of a occurrence. So when you are comparing two communities, you really need to go by using a kind of a standards in that particular community.
Okay, 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 thank you. Uh, the first question was how cases in epidemiology may be different from clinical cases.
Yes. Whenever we are actually going by a clinical cases, we have to rely on laboratory diagnostics. Okay, lot of effort or help always is coming from laboratory kind of investigations. When you are going into the community, you are not having necessary backup of all those laboratory investigations, and that is the reason you really need to operationalize your case definitions in order to suit to the community settings, and that is where I think that is the difference.
So here you mean that population at risk can be also called as cases. Those who are diagnosed are also called as cases.
No, there is a different distinction between what we called as cases and what we called as population at risk, because people may be at risk, but not all of them will get the disease or an illness.
Hmm.
So that is where I think two things are different.
Okay.
And
Uh,
most important thing is the time period when you are measuring them.
hmm.
Suppose you have taken certain measurements in the month of January, okay, that particular point of time cases will be different. If you are
Hmm.
taking the some measurements in the month of July, then at particular point of time, cases will be different. There is a kind of either increase or decrease of these particular cases.
Okay. Okay. Next question, which is related to rate and ratio, is that
Mm.
why in denominator we take mid-year population?
Yes. So mid-year population, okay, in all vital statistics, and we know when we are considering um, at-risk population, some people, okay, are going to die in that particular, uh, okay, that particular group. Some people are going to get added. Okay, there will be some new births. Okay, so to take care of all those kind of subtractions as well as additions in the population, okay, general kind of a norm followed in vital statistics is consider mid-year population. Okay, so that is assumed. Okay, again it is assumption. It is assumed that it will take care of all the entry as well as exits from the target population.
Okay. Okay. Uh, there is a request to repeat incidence rate. So could you please explain what is incidence once again?
Yes, incidence is nothing but a new cases. Okay, and the kind of a incidence rate. So it is again kind of a, it is always related to that particular calendar time or calendar period. So new cases are always with relation to, whenever we said rate with specific time period. Okay, we have to go by that.
Okay. There is one more question, and that is what kind of studies use person time risk? The
Yes.
calculation that you have elaborated.
Yes,
So if you could
yes,
take one
yes.
concrete example.
Generally, person time risk, okay, is being considered in all the follow-up studies. Okay, you people have not get introduced with the other epidemiological studies, which is called as cohort studies. So most of the cohort studies or follow-up studies generally use this particular person time at risk kind of a measure. Yeah.
Okay. Um, so uh, I think people still are writing. Some of them are still
Hmm.
writing and trying to understand the concept. My request to you is that if you could tell us, like, the numerator of rate and ratios are different.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the denominator, sorry, I wanted to say denominator,
Hmm.
denominator of rate and ratios.
Yes.
And, but then why are they called as rates and ratios? So, what is the difference between denominator?
Yes. So let me go back to my slides again and I would try to explain. Okay. Whether my slide is visible?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So this is where the answer is. Okay. Denominator. Okay. Whenever we are trying to calculate a ratio, okay, we always have a one number divided by another. Okay. When it is a proportion, it is the when it a proportion is straightforward, it is also a kind of a ratio in which numerator is a subset of the denominator. So that is what are the keywords here. Okay, a proportion is a ratio in which numerator is a subset of the denominator. Okay, and rate, okay, that is where the kind of a things changes. A rate may or may not be a proportion. So, and that is what I explained further by taking example of infant mortality rate. Okay, so when we are considering the kind of a denominator in infant mortality rate, we really need to be aware about some of the part of that particular denominator will come from past years also. So that is the reason infant mortality rate, although is a ratio, it is not a proportion because numerator is not necessarily part of that particular denominator as some infants may have been born during the previous calendar year. Okay, so that is why it has been said that rate can be a ratio but may not be a proportion. But in case of fertility rate, definitely, okay, it is both a ratio as well as proportion. Because going by a definition of fertility rate, it is a number of live births per thousand women in the age group of 15 to 44 years during a calendar year.
Uh, Thank you. It would be also interesting to share with our participants that when we calculate death rate or birth rate, our
Mhm.
denominator are total deaths, and out of that, how many, uh, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
or
yes.
out of total number of births. But when you are calculating ratio, for
Hmm.
example, if you take maternal mortality ratio, so
Yes, yes.
here the denominator is total number of births,
Mhm.
while the numerator is total number of deaths of mothers. So
Yes.
in a ratio, it's very interesting that your numerator may not be part of your denominator. Denominator is totally
Hmm.
different. But while in calculating rate, most of the times your
Hmm.
numerator is part of your denominator. So
Yes.
these are certain, I think,
Intricacies, yeah.
yeah, intricacies and interesting things about facts about
Yes.
epidemiology. uh, uh, well, somebody is asking about statistical analysis. I don't know whether this comes under the purview of this particular session. I'll just read it out. How can
Mhm.
I do statistical analysis of pre and post COVID symptoms within the sample population? uh,
Okay.
you can
No,
choose to
yeah,
or you can decline, that's okay.
yeah, yeah. I think in the rest part of this particular course, I think you will come to know about all these particular statistical kind of a tests. Uh, at present, I think in the interest of the majority, I think let's not go or delve into that particular point here.
Okay. And could you please go to your last slide, and that is about books, which students can refer to.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
right.
So
So,
there are three books. One, this particular classic book, Basic Epidemiology, that is published by World Health Organization. Um, it is a second edition of that. Um, that is
is it
very
available
important.
online?
Yeah, that is available online. You can get that. This second book, first book is on Goddess Epidemiology. It is the sixth edition. That is also, I think, available in the public domain, or sometimes you have to purchase it. Depends. This is the latest edition, but you can get previous editions for free. Then this is the third book, Public Health and Epidemiology. I have a kind of a cover of first edition, but I think of late they have come up with the second edition as well, and that is also very good kind of a book. Those who want to venture into public health and epidemiology, they can read that, and it's a very good kind of a summary book of what you're supposed to learn in public health as well as epidemiology.
Okay. Okay. So, if there are no other questions, we can stop the recording and we can stop the session.